Est-ce que le micro est correct? On va tester ça. Peut-être un peu plus proche de la bouche. Je pense que ça va être bon. Okay, we're in there. Hmm. Alright, I guess I'll keep this stream silent. Well, not silent, but no music. Let's go. Only the smallest. Should go to dashboard. How do I do that again? Dashboard, dashboard. Create a dashboard. There we go. All right. So netcode. Um, let's get out a notepad. So I have a small idea of what I want to do. But I already have like a state-based system, so this should not be too, well, it's going to be hard, but at least that's already there. So I want to be able to roll back to previous states and probably create a debug mode so I can test locally and then maybe test with 2 instances of the game and then figure out how to connect to another game, other computer or something. I have some ideas on that, but I won't get into the details of this part for now. I think I'll stick to this for now. So that's the plan. So let's see. I should probably create a branch for this. So let's go. Status, whatever. Git checkout. And I'll call it netcode. All right, just so that I can easily go back if things go wrong. So first, notepad again. So if I want to be able to roll back, I would have to. I guess I'll assume that P2 inputs are delayed by X frames, and So I'll uh, need a way to compare input history. Should I just compare input history or match state? I think my game is light enough that I can just compare input history, and then if it doesn't match, I can roll back to where the differences are, without having to. And this is probably going to be like, it would be expensive for a normal game, and I think I can switch to that after, if this does end up being too heavy. But just for a test run of being able to roll back by a certain amount of frames to match, this should be a good way to do it. And then I need to make sure that it is really, really obvious. Uh, so I'll have my AI test this out. So it'll probably look really weird. And if it looks weird, then it's probably working. Um, so, yeah, I guess, yeah, so not assume, I would have to create a way to have p inputs delayed by x frames, right? So I guess to do this, I'll start by having what I'll call a netplay controller. So right now I have AI controller, AI player, right? Um, but I want my input source so far it can be a local player, AI player, or remote player, right? And so remote player would be my netcode. No, sorry, Movie Bear. This is only Visual Studio. Visual Studio is not it's not Fortnite. I don't know. They probably use Visual Studio in the development of Fortnite, but all right. So local player, yeah, yeah, I'll probably have another. Do I even need it? Is it even important that I know this? I don't think I need this function for this. So I'll get inputs and then, but I need more than inputs, right? Or do I? Because how my game loop works right now is that my input, uh, no, not inputs the class. Yeah, sorry for the bamboozle. Um, so my AI player, for example, is set up. So I use it here, and then just trying to remember where I get my, okay, so my input source. Yeah, okay, so here, right? So get single player inputs, and then it would get the inputs from the source, right? So, um, so right now I get inputs, and then get inputs per player, right? But then if I want remote inputs, right, I would need to have like a log of like the player's inputs and then a way to like fetch them from somewhere else. Um, so guess I guess my remote player uh, will just, I guess he'll be able to roll back his own inputs and then no, that doesn't make sense because he won't be able to roll back the game state, right? So I need to let me look at how I handle inputs themselves. So I get my inputs. Yeah, okay, get inputs. Get all inputs. Um, so on my update, I just check time since last update, and then I update my current state, right, with get inputs. Okay. Uh, oh, right, because this is the generic version of it, right? So if I find all references of this, no, okay, no, I need, so this is where the implementation would be, right? So this, and then I want the gameplay state version of this, right? So gameplay state updated. So I get the inputs and then I send them, right? And then, and that's only like the inputs on the next frame. So how do I make it so that I can like go back in time, right? I need to be able to find a place where um, my inputs can be compared, and then I can like re-simulate the game for a certain amount of frames, and then make it catch up. So the place I would probably do that is somewhere that has access to this previous states array, so probably in gameplay state, right? So this here, normally it would receive this because that's the update function. But if I use, okay, so gameplay state here override does this. Um, I guess, I mean, no, I was gonna say, I guess I could have like the rollback function be in like the core, the abstract class of my application state, but then just like not roll back on character select screen, just have it like just return like normal inputs. Maybe that would work, right? So here I have uh right, I have the abstract function void update, right, which each one would have to implement. Um, but then I would also have to have a state that is um, hmm, I wonder if I should put it in my update rather than outside of it because I update with the inputs, but I don't want to send like the input history to the inputs, right? Because then that would be like a lot of references going back and forth. Um, huh. So, hmm, very tricky. I guess I'll just add it here for now, and then we will see what I do with it. Should I do? I think I won't put it abstract. I'll put it virtual because I want to have like a base implementation that my classes, if my gameplay states um don't have rollback like in them, they shouldn't have to support it to implement like a generic thing. So I'll just have public virtual, um, I guess void, because the handling is going to be done by the class itself. So by the object itself, the state itself. So public virtual void, and then how should I call this? Um, adjust or netplay update maybe? Hmm. Adjust state for netplay. I'll just call it like that for now. I'll probably think of a better name once I have a better idea what it does, because right now I kind of don't know what I'm doing. Hmm. And this would have to take like a list of inputs, right? Um, to compare. Hmm. Yeah, I guess I could take like, no, that wouldn't make, because the thing is, I don't want to compare like my whole list every time, right? That doesn't really make sense because if I compare the whole list, then that can get like really long at the end of a match, right? I want to compare like a smaller part of it, right? Um, hmm. But if I compare a smaller part, then I don't take into account desyncs. So Let's see. Ideally, I'd look up something now, like a reference of like how another game or how it's done in those emulators. Someone had referenced that last time. Maybe I'll look at a bookmark from that I took. Um, maybe is there a database, boundaries, web player, any like doc or something, FAQ maybe? Um, ah, documentation. Okay, that's cool. Let me just bring this over. Let's just look real quick if there's something interesting. License. Okay, sure. For, I guess, developers. You know, is there anything here that I can see that would be interesting? Not shaders. Network protocols, netplay. Yeah. So how do they do this? So each playing their client simply sends the input state of the controller every frame. Yeah, exactly. And then the forward server forwards the input between clients. Yes. And then they're each okay. Send input in order for every frame, and thus every client keeps its in mind the frame counter. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, okay. That's good. That's an idea. So just reading this, even if they haven't said it, yeah, it makes sense. It's if you know which frame which input corresponds to, then you can I could put like a boolean like validated, right? That like this input is like guessed and this input is validated. And so that way I don't have to check the validated inputs, right? Because I know that I've received them from the other player. And then I can probably assume like repeating inputs if there's no interaction. And then if I roll back the game's play based on like input changes, but they don't actually affect the gameplay, then that's fine actually. Um, ideally, I wouldn't do this, but because this game is pretty light, I think I can get away with it. Uh, Yeah, yeah, and they need to agree which frame is which. Okay, so this is different though because they have like their game is it's like it's emulated, right? So I don't need to, and then spectators send no input data, right? Okay, I guess I'll keep reading this just to get some more ideas, but I have the gist of it now. Um, frame counters, which yeah, okay. In particular, save states are always synchronized authentication. Buffer input states. There are three important locations: self, other, and unread. Yeah, okay. Exactly. Yeah. Red is the first frame. Yeah, yeah. And so it's yeah. Okay, yeah. So they're using a server where I would just be purely peer-to-peer. Um, so pre-frame netplay is sorry if this is like unintelligible. I'm just reading real fast. Yeah. Ch- um, So it checks whether it's simulated. Rewinds and runs the core in replay mode, right? And then it sets it to, yeah, and to avoid if it's too far ahead. So the limiter is disabled to catch up. Interesting. Okay. Uh, so frame counter acts like an index. We've read 23 frames, but the last frame, okay. And that's just, okay. And then protocol would be like other stuff. Okay, this is a really cool reference to Node. Like big shout outs to I don't remember the person who linked this to me last week on my stream. But yeah, this is good insight. I needed that. Uh okay then. I'll just close this like this for now. Um I guess, so let me see if, so I think right now how my game will work is that uh, inputs, no, not inputs. If I go to implementations of update, I update based on the game state, and then I only keep an array of previous states, right? Because each state has its inputs, but I would probably also need to keep an array um, of like inputs, but like per frame, right? So in my inputs here, um, I guess I should call this like a single frame input or single frame. It's a like it's really for the net play validation, right? So, and I need like, hmm, so it's single frame input validation, right? I guess I'll call it like that for now. I'm not really sure what it's gonna be. Um, and so this is going to have so single player inputs. Um, I guess I could have it just be public, but no. Let's just yeah, just put accessors for now. Single player inputs. P1 inputs, get and set, and then same thing for P2. And then I guess I could have a validation, right? So bool or confirmation, I guess. Uh, confirm or sync confirmed, right? And so what this is going to do is it's going to let me know when I have to not go back in time anymore to validate the fact that the inputs match up. And so then I'll just create a constructor for this single frame. So I'll just have it be like super basic. I guess I could even maybe like estimate inputs based on this because most of the time, well, most of the time people are gonna, actually no. I should estimate based on the previous state, right? So I'll probably create a copy constructor for this, but not exactly a copy constructor. It'll be like a static constructor because I don't want to copy the sync confirmed because it's just like creating a copy but without that parameter. Because I will need to copy the previous state a lot. And the reason I want to do this um, is because I'll be assuming that the next state, the next inputs are the same as the previous inputs, right? Because like, let's say that you're like not pressing anything on your joystick, right? You assume that in the next frame you don't press anything. But then if you, as soon as you press a button, it's really rare that you press it, like you hold it down for only one frame, right? So then my previous estimation was wrong, but then it isn't until you release it that like the following estimation is wrong. So if you're like holding it down for like, let's say, I don't know, like a short amount is actually like, let's say 8 frames, right? That's actually like pressing it and releasing it like pretty fast. Like if you've ever like played Smash Brothers, short hop is in Ultimate is 3 frames, right? And that's like pretty hard to do consistently until you, unless you've played a lot of Smash in the past. And I think it's the same in Melee. Uh, but it's like something that if you're new to the series, you gotta practice for a while before you can like consistently do it. So just that is is something that I'm going to account for. So static single frame generation copy input. And And so this is going to take a single frame. I guess I'll just call it other inputs. And then, oh yeah. So, well, yeah, var. I could just return. I'll just do it the basic way. So var output equals new. All right. And then if I'm not mistaken, I can do this. Puts equals new, single player inputs. Oh, I don't have a copy constructor there. All right, I have to make one. Because this one I can just do it the basic way. So it's unfortunate that C# doesn't provide like a default copy constructor, but it also makes sense um, because you can easily like fuck shit up if you don't do this properly, and having it assume that it's going to work the way you think it is isn't always the best solution. Oh no, 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 no. Did I compile by accident? Oh, this is not going to work. At least C# is fast and lets me work while I do that. Okay, now we have a copy constructor. I can go back, I said, here, and then put other inputs dot p1 inputs, right? And then p2 inputs equals new single player inputs. So the reason I'm not assigning the previous input is also, you know, if you're not familiar with C# because it's going to be like I'm just using the reference, right? So it would point to the same object. So if I end up changing it afterwards, it'll change both reference both points that point to that reference, right, or whatever. So I want what's it called? Other inputs dot p2 inputs. Yeah, this thing is kind of smart. And then sync confirmed equals false, right? Because even if it's true, it's still false. And then I'm just going to return output. So ideally, I could just do this in one line, but I want to do it in 2 lines so that I can debug more easily, and also because I'm lazy. So I guess I should put a description here because this is not a clear class. So inputs are to be stored in a history of inputs so that they can be compared to sync for netplay. The validation is to indicate where you don't have to go back and compare anymore. I don't know if that's clear, but I should at least explain what it's doing. I don't need to put I mean, yeah, actually, I don't know, actually, this one's not clear. I should put a summary here. Creates a copy from other generally previous input does not copy sync confirmation. And then, yeah, that should be clear enough. All right, let's keep at it. So now that I have single player inputs in like something that I can like put in a list, I need to keep this list somewhere. I'm not sure where though. Where would the best place for this to be? But actually, you know, I could just have rollback in like all my menus, right? And then that way I would I would have the character select screen be like working online without any extra effort, and then I would have my implementation of this already in my generic state thing. So um, this is gameplay state, it's an application state, and then do I want it to be in my application state? I guess, yeah, because I guess I could clean the list of inputs between like character select and the match, right? Because that's even if I want to support the delay in one, I can still like separate it from the other. So um, I'll keep the list here, and no, not public, definitely not public. Probably private, yeah, because I'll do the adjustments here, and maybe I should even like remove the virtual, right? If I'm just rolling back or like recalculating states, but I don't keep the states here, so I wouldn't be able to go back to them. Well, I'll start with this, and then I'll correct as I go. So I'll put it in a list because list has been working out fine so far. So single frame input validation. Oh, I'll probably have to go put that class public because I made a mistake and made everything public. Um, so this is going to be input history, I guess, yeah. And then I'll need a constructor for this now, and so we'll have to call base constructor from now on. Um, so public or protected actually. This is a lot of work if I have to like move it though. Whatever. Okay, application state. Um, so menu base. I'll probably need this constructor anyway in the long run. And then gameplay state. Create gameplay state. Okay, so here's the constructor base. And then my menus, do their constructors, they don't call base, fuck. Okay, no, that's not a constructor though. Okay, so if I character select screen, oh, it calls base. Perfect. I'm kind of smart sometimes. And this one should also call base. Yeah, yeah. Okay, we good. We good. I'm not doing this completely wrong. Okay. This is a place where I should do it, but I'll still do it here for now and maybe move it. I'll probably just override it in that case because yeah, I don't need it to be rollback based in this mode, but ah, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Okay. Um, and so is this maybe the object that I want to like send between like versions, right? Where I'll be able to compare because I only need to compare like one player's input, right? Because I know that like the local inputs are good, but then if I do it like this, then I can perhaps support more than one player. Um, and it's not that much of a big difference to send like I think an array containing like two tiny objects, or not two tiny objects, but an array of two tiny objects as opposed to an array of one tiny object. I mean, I I guess at the end of a match there will have been lots of inputs sent through that, but oh right, I forgot I need the an int uh frame number, right? Or something like that. I don't know if I should have it be a long though because I don't think so. Let's just do some quick maths. Uh, calc, I'm bad at estimating. So let's just play it safe. So if we have 60 frames per second, and then our match can last, uh, let's take a bad scenario. Let's take like a 10-minute match. 60 seconds times 10 minutes. And then size of int is like way bigger than that. Okay, okay. So I've just no reason to use anything bigger than an int for this. I could have done that in my head, but yeah, easier to do it like this sometimes. Get set, and then this is going to be, I'll put it at -1. I guess I could like have it unsigned, but then I wouldn't be able to have like -1 uh, be like an error code, right? Uh, and yeah, so int is 2 billion, I think. Values between like -2 and 2 billion. So not something I need to worry about. Okay. Frame number starts at -1, and then if I use my copy constructor, then here, huh. So this is a tricky one. Should I increment this here? I think I will, because I am like setting it as unsynced for the next state. Um, I'll have to rename the function though. From previous, I'll call it like this, and then maybe I'll use the function for something else. So I'll click create next input, and then so frame number will be equal to other inputs dot frame number +1. Am I allowed to do this? So let's put it on several lines just so it's a bit clearer. Okay. Okay. Back to application state. So yeah, I guess I don't need to send like all the inputs, right? I only need to send like a certain amount of like unconfirmed frames, right? And then they both kind of adjust that, and it'll always be like if there's am I just gonna send like one frame at a time? No, no, I think I'll send like a batch. I'll start with a batch, and then if that doesn't make sense, then I'll correct. So, uh, it's still kind of tricky though, because it still makes more sense to like just receive one input at a time, because that's how I'll be sending it through NetPlay, right? I'll just be like, oh, at this frame he did this, at this frame he did that. But no, it makes more sense that I send like a list of unconfirmed frames, right? And so that way, if you receive unconfirmed frames, but they're confirmed on your side, then you can disregard that, because like let's say that I'll send one input and then I'll send like no, input 1 and input 2, and then input 1, 2, and 3, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? But then by the time that I send 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1 has been validated, right? And then he receives 1 from the other side, so then he can validate that. And from that point on, he only sends like 3, 4, and 5, right? Or whatever. And then that way, I'll always be sending a list, but that means that if like for whatever reason, like one of the packets doesn't make it, I don't need to like account for that, right? Because I know it'll get like corrected by like whatever the next uh, pack of inputs he gets. And then if for whatever reason, like a bigger amount of packets don't make it, like let's say that he loses internet connection for like a fraction of a second, I don't know if he'll be able to reconnect correctly to the right source, but let's say that that does happen, then he'll maybe receive like a dozen of those inputs and then be able to like, whoa, okay, let's warp this. It's gonna look kind of weird, but you know, whatever. That's net play. Okay, let's do this. So this is going to receive a list of single frame input validation. And then let's call it other list from other player, or inputs from other player, or inputs list from other player. Okay. Oh, it's just that. No, okay, that's not the constructor. But why is it doesn't like this? It's less accessible. Right. Yeah, because my class is in. So let's just go put this public because yeah, I should have just left everything internal, but whatever. At this point, too much to go back. Yeah, I unfortunately just learned through C++, so it's like you got public, private, and protected, right? And so generally, if you want your class to be visible by something it's not inheriting, you put it public. I just kind of don't think about internal that much because it's just by default in C#, right? I regret that. Let's go then. Let's compare. So I guess I'll write the steps of what I want to do here. So I want to um, compare inputs, I guess. Uh, um, so so I guess what I need to do is to be able to like roll back. And this is interesting, right? Because I also need to account for the fact that I might like impose some delay on the player so that his inputs that like the game state is actually like 2 frames ahead of him so that he doesn't even notice those 2 frame desync or 2 frame like rollbacks that might happen. They just don't happen, right? Like, he's just like playing a slightly more delayed version. And I think this is actually fine for a game like this where uh like there's not much like, oh, you need to react to something at like a specific queue kind of thing. It's just like movement vectors that you can like estimate. So if the movement vectors are slightly delayed, like you might have a bit more trouble like estimating them fast enough, but then you just like space yourself or anticipate it better, right? That like, oh, this movement is going to be might be slightly delayed. So like this position that would have been safe if I hadn't had that delay is now unsafe because at this distance I can't react to this certain thing. So you just like shift your spacing slightly, you adjust your spacing based on that. So I think that that's like a solution that a player might have for this scenario. So I think it's fine. Um, so adjust state for net play. Let's take a bit more water. So I guess I'll roll back if required, and then validate state, right? Something like that. So let's start with compare inputs. So I'll put this as private because I don't think that the children need to see this, but I might change it to protected if I deem that they do. Uh, so private, hmm, I'm not sure what I should return though. Should I return like, I think I'll return an int, right, which is a number of frames that need to be rolled back. Does that make sense? Because I guess I could do the validation in here, right? Uh, yeah, that makes more sense actually. Plus validate. Because if I'm gonna check them, I might as well just validate them as I'm checking them. So private int adjust or compare and validate inputs, and then I would have the same input here, inputs from the other player. So let's put some comments because I don't want to forget this. So this is adjust the state of the game to account for delayed inputs from netplay player. Right. Let's assume something like that. And then here, compare and validate inputs. That would be, um, I mean, the name of the function kind of says it, but it would be compare inputs of matching, what's the word I'm looking for? Of matching frame count or frame number. Uh, and then validate that those that have been compared. That's kind of tricky though. I don't know how I'll validate that, but fuck. All right, I'll adjust as I go. I'm not really sure if this is the right way to do this because I don't know like if I'll know which one of my inputs are estimated and which ones are like correct, right? So maybe the validation should be for P1 and P2. I don't think I need to, so I'll just do it like this for now, and then I'll adjust if I have to. So input list from other player, right? And then the return value, however, would be um, number of frames to roll back. Very big number. I'm kind of unsure that this should be like an int. This should probably be like a reference to which state to roll back to, but I'll try it with an int because I think I can get this to work and it would be like more efficient. Uh, this might be just a bit more fragile, but less prone, like more fragile in the sense that I have to make sure that my implementation keeps like supporting this, but also because it's an int, there's not much I can do with it. So if I like do something with my references, like let's say I roll back to one state, but then decide to roll back to another state, then maybe the reference won't be good. So I think maybe just an int value might be safer in that regard. So let's, yeah. So this is a compare function. Uh, so I could use link for this, um, to find like what my last, well, yeah, I guess so. First thing I need to do is go to or start iterating from uh, latest non-validated input, I guess, and then uh, list from other player. Right, because they're on my side, the ones that like I don't know. So if I'm receiving inputs from the other player, fuck, I need to know which inputs are mine and which are his, right? Because if not, I don't know who's the boss, right? That makes sense. So what would be the best way to do this? Should I put it on the single frame input validation itself or on the other one? Um, my boy, friend Bear Blaster is playing Baldur's Gate 2. It's Baldur's Gate 2 is a pretty fun game. So back to this. So start iterating from latest non-validated input. So I'll do it like the non-optimal way first. Um, which would be to do it like a for each and then break. So for each, no, for, and then I'll declare my int before this. So for int, um, current player input index equals 0. Oh, but I still need to know which player I am, right? Huh, that's so tricky. That is, oh, well, I guess when I assign the player, right, in my netplay state, because that's the thing that's going to return it to me, I'll be like receiving data from netplay that doesn't know who's who. It doesn't care who's who. It's better if it doesn't. And then the local machine knows, oh, I'm receiving player 2 data, right? And so it'll be able to set that that data is P2. So I think I'll just add a Boolean here for that. So public bool uh, I'll call it P1 source or whatever, P1 source, right? And then I'll have to put comments on this one because I don't know a clearer way of doing it. So this is going to be specifies if the input that is confirmed comes from P1 or P2 if false. That's a tricky one. So I guess, yeah, I'll set it to true by default, but this doesn't really make sense. And then in this case, yeah, I will be like just taking from the previous one equals other inputs dot P1, right? So knowing this, I'll have to assign it when I work on my remote player, but for now, I'll just use it, right? So for currently input index equals 0, or actually I'm initializing it right before, so I can just do this. Current plus plus, I don't know, smaller than input history. Oh yeah, dot count. Is that it? Yeah. And yeah, okay. I mean, technically I could store this value for like future. Maybe that would be like a good way of using static. Hmm. I'll put a to do, even though I probably won't use it eventually, just to remind me if ever I see it again, I'm like, oh yeah, would that be a good idea? Like once I understand the system better. Probably one of the rare instances of a good to do. Check if this index should be a static, so it isn't recalculated as much, right? And by much, I mean like the amount of time to get to it is going to be shorter. But I think there's like a risk that it might like fuck up, so I'll use it like this for now. So, I'll be iterating through this. All right. So if I dot sync confirmed, and then something like this. Oh yeah, I put I because of reflexes, but yeah. Break, right? So I guess I'll just get to the end of the index. Huh. I will get to the end of the index though. If my most recent state is confirmed, then I might go over. Uh, shouldn't be a problem though. I'll just eh, I'll just put a edge case for that, but just making sure, right? Because I don't remember. Because if I don't remember how if or like how for loops work, right? So if I like, because if I know that if like yeah you reach the end, you reach the end, right? But I assume that it does it by incrementing the value or doing whatever operation you have there, and then checking the middle condition after and checking that it doesn't match, right? It's like, or is it the other way around, right? Just I'll put this as just making sure, but yeah, whatever. Uh, I'll just call it a precaution. So if this is for whatever reason bigger than or bigger or equal, right? Um, then so I want the last item. Right. Okay. Just making sure. So start iterating, and then so I go to the this is tricky. This is definitely tricky. I'll have to compare. Well, I guess no. It's not that tricky actually. It makes sense. It's because I'll be receiving more inputs than then I might necessarily want to validate at this point. So compare inputs from, hmm, I mean, that make that if I so if I'm thinking about this right, it means that if I'm sending all the inputs, then it'll be easier to go to the correct one. But if I'm sending a smaller amount of inputs, then I can just iterate through it until I meet like the matching one, right? So I'll just have like this here, uh, var, or maybe int. Um, I'll just put both. So this is going to be, no, yeah, that's not what I'm trying to do. Var last validated input. If I do it like this though, I'll have to revalidate to my previous one. Sup Daisy Fan, welcome to my stream. Um, so last validated input is going to be, or actually last, it's unvalidated, right? Not non-validated input is going to be, huh. Input history. Okay, and then int, or I can also put it as var frame or lowest. No, so this is not last anymore. This is oldest, I guess. And so oldest non-validated frame is going to be, so I'm just making this like kind of lengthy just to make sure that I'll be able to debug it. If I need to optimize for like whatever reason, I'll just go back and put this in like one-liners, right? Or just group it where I need it. But I think I just want to make sure that it works first, you know? Um, and so here, I guess I can do one check where if um, if my oldest frame is actually like an error, right? Uh, I don't know if I should return. I'll return -1 as well, right? Because it's just like, okay, this is a error in frames should not happen. Don't really know what I'll do with this if I get it, but yeah. Okay, so now I get to compare inputs. So once again, I'll do int other player input index equals 0. Then for that, and then there. plus plus. So increment that. Oh yeah, dot count. Being silly. And I want to get the matching frame, right? So I can start iterating at this point. So if inputs from other player, other player input index dot frame number equals oldest not validated frame, then we break, right? So I guess I'll assume that inputs that I receive are not estimated, right? They're like real inputs. So then I'll have a, I guess, revise input history. And I guess I could probably do that in a I'll just do that here, but I'll probably drag it out to a function after. Once I know what it is. So yeah, once again. And I guess I could go with the same index, really. It's kind of weird to do like a 4, but then like a different 4 that just takes where the last one left off. But I think it makes sense. Like, because I don't want to do the validation every time, right? I just know like if there's an input that's incorrect, then the rest of the inputs have to be like readjusted. If they have the same values, then it's fine. So here's where the tricky thing is going to be, where if I see like a discrepancy in the input, then I'll call for a rollback. But if not, I don't have to, right? I think that makes sense. So yeah, actually exactly the same thing here. However, can I put commas? This assumes that the frames that I receive from the other player are still behind my frames. Is there any case where like the opponent could be ahead of me? I don't like if your PC's like really laggy. I guess. Like, oh geez, that would be so weird though. Like just imagine it. Like you're actually behind because you're like running too slow, and so like the game just goes to shit. I would need to have a way to compensate for that. That's for sure. Um, but I also don't want it to be like, oh, I can like just feed you, like if the opponent just starts feeding you like too many inputs. To, so would I need like a clock to compensate for that, right? I don't know. I'll put a note, but I'll just do it like this for now. Um, another to do. Love those to dos. Uh, validate or consider case where opponent game state is ahead of current system game state, right? I don't know if I'll do it, but maybe I will. I don't know. Still, so this 4 is going to be on 3 lines then, because I don't want my line to be too long, because I will also be using this condition. Just iterating through 2 arrays at once. Nothing special to see here. Not breaking any laws, I hope. So, I'll use vars for this because so to compare local state, state to compare local equals something like this. Uh, hmm. What if it skips frames? That would be kind of weird, but if we're here, we're assuming that like it starts at the right one and then the rest matches. I guess I could just like return it like if like the number doesn't match, right? So I'll just put a check just in case. Um, so if state local frame number equals and we'll do this, and then if it doesn't, then I'll just return -1, right? It's a error. I guess maybe if I like catch that there's a -1, I can just pop up like desync, something fucked up. Um, hmm. Okay, so state to compare. No, what am I trying to do now? So I've got state to compare frame number, right? So if their frames match, then I want to compare the inputs, right? Because if the inputs match, then it's fine. It's when the inputs don't match that I need to know who's the boss. Okay. I should add a comparison to the inputs. Uh, so to this thing. So I'll put uh, should I override the equality? No, not the equality, because that I want to still be able to check that. I just want to put the equals. Um, so public bool are inputs same, because I don't need to check the rest of the stuff. So it's not actually like equality, right? It's like a very specific where I only care about the inputs. Uh, are inputs same? And I don't care about the frame number in this case either. I mean, if it's got to this point, then the frame should be the same. Uh, other, right? And then I don't think this one also has a equality thing. So I'll add a equality operator here. Public override or override equals, right? And yeah, something like that. Yeah, that's cool. So return uh, joystick direction equal obj dot joystick direction, and a equals well, actually I can just do it like this, right? I can probably copy this and then just put two equals everywhere, and then just replace these with ands. And then replace this with this. This doesn't work. Oh, oops. And oh, doesn't need to be this. This works too. All right, we're getting somewhere. Our input's the same, so I guess I could just return p1 inputs dot same deny equals, right? So I can either do it through obj or through this. So here I'll do other dot p1 inputs. No, not p1 source. Inputs and p2 inputs dot equals other dot p2 inputs, right? And then back to where was I before? Fuck, I hate this. Come on, we'll get there. Oh, yes. Here, our input's same. So our input's same as state to compare other. Okay. So, well, I actually don't want this. I want this because it's an if. So if they are the same, if they're not the same, right? Then I do something. And then regardless of whether they're the same or not, I can then validate them. Sync confirmed equals true, right? So state to comparison confirmed. Okay. So here's the tricky part. So what do I do if the inputs don't match? So I'll write that down here. If inputs don't match, um, replace the local inputs that belong to the other player. Well, that's simple enough. So if dot p1 source, right? Then I'm p1. Then uh, state to compare local dot p1 inputs equals new. Yeah, I was gonna just not do new, but it's better like this. Uh, it's gonna be. I think the garbage collector is gonna help me out here. I don't think I need to worry about this because I'm gonna create all these like states that like are gonna be temporary, and then they're just gonna get like lost in space, right? But because they're just no longer have anything referencing them, I think the garbage collector is gonna take care of it for me. So that should be fine. And then state to compare. Oh no, wait, no, I don't need to do this. I need to do the else part. Else, I just did the opposite, right? This function has less lines than I thought it would. Uh, so, um, okay, and then I sync it, I confirm it's synced, right? Oh, right. So this is if they don't match, right? I would do this, but then I would also I wouldn't return here, but I would also okay. So I'll do this the proper way, even though there's a more optimal way of doing it. So I'll just put bool um, mismatch found equals false, and then int earliest mismatched frame equals -1, right? Um, so if the inputs don't match, right, then wait. No, here, yeah, because I mean I'll have to validate either way. So if So if I haven't found a mismatch yet, so this is to make sure that it happens on the first frame. Uh, earliest mismatched frame equals, alright, so I'll just go with local dot frame number, right? And then, oh, so it's not number of frames to roll back, of the frame to roll back to. This just makes a lot more sense. Yeah, and then I just keep doing this, and then at the end I return this value, and then yeah, return this. So that means that if the value is -1, yeah, I'll do the bad thing and put -2 and -3 here. So number of frames to roll back to, and then returns the number of frames to roll back to. 'Cause I was thinking like I'll return 0 if there's no rollback needed, but I guess it makes more sense if I'm returning the frame to roll back to, that I return -1 if there's no frame, nothing to do there, right? So I'll set that as, um, I'll just have this here, -1 equals, this is kind of whack. I'll put it in the summary. -1, no rollback required. -2, error. Because I don't want to throw, because throw is heavy. And if I'm going to be running this several times per frame, uh, I could get away with it, but I would prefer handling it manually. So this is, um, so this is a mismatch in frames, error, comma, mismatched frame numbers when comparing lists, and -3 is error, oldest non-validated frame number is -1, meaning unassigned. Okay. Okay, this is cool. So I'm currently rollbacking my inputs. Not the game state yet. We'll get there. But my inputs, right? So let's put this here. To roll back to. And this is the tricky part. Because so far what I've been doing is the part that well, I guess I hadn't figured it out before, but the part that currently makes sense in my head. This part does not make sense yet for me. But it is getting late, so a logical step would be to stop here, but I'm not very smart. So let me just see if I can figure out like a solution to this so I can at least get myself thinking so that if I come up with one during the day tomorrow, then I'll be able to implement it later. Man, I have not a theme in my stuck in my head. It's kind of a problem. All right. How would I guess the rollback itself could be virtual, but yeah. Or now, no, now that I think about it, the game state itself needs to have a frame number as well so that I know. Because I was thinking if I only know like how many I need to go back to, then the state itself doesn't need to have a frame number. But it would be better if it did. Just to be on the safe side. So let's fuck. I'll just write it out in pseudocode, I guess. And then if I do this, it keeps going, right? So Ugh, this is giving me a headache. So, so with this, I have the frame I want to roll back to, right? So I need to implement. Well, I don't need to implement it differently for different states. That's what's kind of annoying, right? Because in my gameplay application state, right? Um, so I have. So for example, my gameplay state, right? It has previous states, but they're game states. So if I had like a list, if I had like a list of past states that are not necessarily a game state, but like could be like a menu state or whatever, that I could roll back to, and then I could, fuck, that makes a lot of sense though. Okay, let me just do that before I go to bed. So let's go to the definition of game state, and obviously there's nothing here. I'll probably have to move it. I hate moving stuff in Git, but oh, and I have a match state. Oh yeah, match state is different though. That's not. It should be in its own. Okay then. Let's create that. Should be in match. Where would where would it make sense? I guess states, right? Because it's not like a gameplay thing. I mean, sure, the gameplay state should probably be in gameplay. Uh, but I'll just start with a generic states folder. Uh, states, right? And fuck, I'll just create like a. I guess I'll create an I system state, right? And my I system state, I guess I should probably move my gameplay state here for now. Yeah, sure, whatever. And then this is going to be an I system state. And I guess I should copy over the namespace for now. I'll change it if required. And then this is probably going to break a shit ton of stuff. But the thing is, my match state and match outcome should not be part of this. This should be in match with match result. That's weird. I'll create them. So match state. So even though it's a state, it's not like actually a state. And then this is gonna create a ton of problems. Um, I'm surprised it's still. Oh yeah, match outcome doesn't have anything else. But yeah, I'll have to add references. It's better to do it like this. Where was I? Game state, and then match outcome. Right, come on. So I'll just fix these compilation errors right now before. Oh jeez. Using. So this is in gameplay renderer, and then if I go to like these. Fuck. Why did I choose to do this? Why? Most fun thing at this time of night is to do this kind of work. Yeah. Simple refacto, moving things to different namespaces. Top 10 most amusing and entertaining and simulating things to watch on a stream. This fuck. This might be a bit harder. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just get like swept under the rug like sweep. Ooh. Gauge renderer. Yes, of course I have a gauge renderer. I don't use stuff. What? How? Alright, let's try and rebuild this. See what it's missing. Inconsistency. My system state. Yeah? Oh, because this one's internal. Yes. Okay. Wait, I thought I interface. I'll probably switch it to a class, but for now, interface. Okay, and then match initialization data. Fuck, yeah, I figured something would happen. Let's remove this and see if using match. Does this fix it? No. Where's the error? Warning, 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 warning. Oh, I have an E? Oh, okay, yeah, that's menus, that's whatever. Oh, set data. Yeah, okay, let's remove this. Using match. Should fix it. Okay, refactor was, as expected, not fun, but So, these are a bunch of states that I don't really need to care about. I think the only, actually, it's not even going to be, I say but the only thing that's really important is, this is going to be abstract class. Because I need, or, because yeah, I don't want it to be on a get, because that would be a function. I could still have an accessor for it, right? Yeah. Public abstract class system state. And then it would have public int frame number get set, and then that's it. Maybe. Okay, whatever. Okay, I should rename this one. Yeah, and then public system state int frame number. Can I no? Can I like one line constructor maybe? Line constructor C sharp, or is that a C++ thing? Yeah. Well, whatever. I can just write it in one line because I want to. Oh, no. What am I doing? Parameters. Well, so then this would cause that to be like this, right? Because they need to be able to create the base state. And so I'll have it use int frame number and then base frame number, right? This makes sense. And there's a reason why I'm doing this, right? So that I'm forcing myself to get compilation errors where those are used. Because I need to know which frame I will be on. But this leaves me in an interesting position. I think I'll finish on this. Because I can reset between rounds, that means. So like one round would be, oops, did I close this by accident? No, okay. So yeah, one round would be one thing and then the other round would be another set of frames. That way I don't have to like keep expanding this array. So I guess my match could store like a list of those arrays. That's like an interesting memory management problem, but by leaving it on a compilation error like this, it's setting me a reminder of what I have to work on tomorrow or whenever I work on this again. So yeah, I think that was good. That was good work on for tonight to this. Um, get status. So I've modified a lot of files and well, mostly the references, right? And I will be implemented uh, input matching validation broke gameplay state constructor. Right? I think this works. Git push. Oh, right. Git push set upstream origin netcode. My password. All right. And that'll be it for tonight. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you guys on the next time I do this, whenever that is. Peace.